Right. So a few things been going on across the organization. We'll start with this one. I didn't think you was going to be here, Daniel. So we'll start with the pre-commit issue. David has put through a PR for the SSF formula. And the idea here is to get the pre-commit configuration across all of the repos, all of the formulas. Anything you'd like to just start discussing here before I start going into the tests?
Well, just following on really from the discussion we've had in a couple of the previous meetings, there is kind of a conflict between the way we're using YAML lint now and how it would be used in pre-commit. And so the easiest option is that we...
Sorry. Yeah, go on, Karen, I'm listening.
Yeah, we stick to the way that YAML lint is configured now. And what that means, or at least in the short term, and what that means is that YAML lint as a check will run each time pre-commit is run. So regardless of whether any YAML files have changed, that linter will still run. And I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, I looked into ways of kind of running both, kind of configuring both at the same time, and it just doesn't, it's not a good use of time to work out that setup.
Right, yeah. So what's happening right now is when you run pre-commit locally, it will still check all of the files across the repo. Is that what you're saying?
Well, with the configuration that's in the PR, yeah. I mean, okay. that wasn't how it was in the template formula, but I didn't quite realize how much each formula
has its own
the exceptions in every formula. I didn't realize how different they were. So yeah, in this PR, even when you're committing locally, yeah, YAML lint will run on every commit, and I mean,
and every file, or just the files that have changed?
Well, it will check. It doesn't run on every file, no, but it takes the ignores and the inclusions from the YAML lint configuration. So
what would be the disadvantage of this?
Well, the only disadvantage is that you're doing unnecessary work. If you're not I mean, yeah, there's the whole point of pre-commit is if you're not touching a file, there's no point running that particular check on it.
Okay. So the check will start up, the YAML lint check will start up, but if there's no YAML files that have actually been changed?
Well, yes, but YAML lint itself will make that decision rather than pre-commit.
Right. So it still defers it to YAML lint, and then
exactly.
Back.
Yeah.
And does that
I mean, no, I mean, you know, okay, we're talking a second or two or something, but it's not a time. It's not really a time problem, but it's. I mean, so if you look at then my PR, I've kind of set out a plan to move away from this, but it will go in stages. And I think the most important thing at this point is getting it out there.
Definitely. And I think your PR's helped a lot because it's helped, let me focus on taking your PR and then testing it across all the formulas, which, as I spoke to you separately, but I'll show now, I've started doing. But so this is the original one in the template formula, the YAML lint configuration for pre-commit.
Yes.
And it's being simplified down to this and then passing it on to YAML lint instead. That
Exactly.
little extra second of passing it through. Yeah, and I think, knowing what I know from all the different configurations that we have out there, not just for YAML lint, but for Rubicop and salt lint and stuff, I think we might be forced to have to do that if we want to have a simple way of maintaining this across all the formulas. It's going to be tough to move away from this at least in the early days, at least until we get it out there to all the formulas.
Yeah, in the early days, yeah, but really it's just taking a configuration from one file and putting it into another and in a
Yeah,
different format. And I mean, eventually it will be possible, but when I looked into kind of generating two different configurations from the same basic input, it wasn't worth that. I'm sure it'd be possible, but it just
yeah,
wasn't worth the work involved.
yeah.
So yeah, this is kind of a transitionary period.
Right. So, in terms of answering these questions over here, I think my answer at the moment would be finding a way to run it across all formulas. Actually, just all or nothing. And I think we could reach that. I've got a few ideas for that. I'll discuss in a minute. But one formula at a time is really hard to do. It's a lot of micromanagement. If we can find a sort of generalized configuration that can be spread across all of them and that works, or for the most part, I think that's better.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I just well, I agree, but I wasn't sure how you would want to play it. But if you
yeah,
agree, then yeah.
yeah. In terms of this idea of using a single job, I'm going to change something there because I really think we should be keeping it as two jobs. Just moving on to this for a minute, so we'll come back to, as in this is what I've actually put together. So taking that PR that David gave, I just added a few little bits and bobs that push things through to Zulip. So and I run a test across all the formulas. The one thing about Zulip, it doesn't show us actually in text what formula each run is for, but you
Mm.
can see it when you go over each URL. You can see which formula it is. It's generally in alphabetical order because of the way I push through to the SSF. But the important thing is obviously checking for failures and seeing what the problem is. If I just skip to this one for a second, we can come back to that in a minute. So one example we're going to have a problem with is there are certain, have you got this big rectangular block here that zooms?
No,
Uh, is that transparent? Can you see
it
here?
is. Yeah, it's
Okay,
transparent.
it's not transparent for me. It's annoying me on the side here. So as long as you can see, that's fine. Um, so what we have quite a few formulas where we allow the failing of Rubicop for whatever reason because people haven't got around to fixing the violations. So what's going to happen is pre-commit's always going to fail on those ones at the moment. So if we actually open up the two of them, this was the first one was the pre-commit. So it's going to run the Rubicop and fail, obviously, because the main job has been set to be allowed to be failed because
Mm-hmm.
the checks haven't been fixed yet. But what I found interesting when I started looking at this is inspecting different files. I'm not sure if it's picking up. No, in fact, I'm pretty confident it's not picking up our rubicop.yaml properly because some of the other formulas, which I can hopefully find in a minute, it's actually not picking up the line length change that we have across all of our formulas. So we're using a standard line length of 88 in all of our Rubicop files. Sorry, in all of the Rubicop.yaml allows a line length of 88 throughout all of our formulas. And there are some of these runs that I've just seen now where because it's lines that are going above 80 but below 88, those are being caught as well at the moment by pre-commit.
Mm-hmm.
But I can hopefully pick those in a minute. But this was strange where it inspects different numbers of files. So for it, it doesn't seem to be picking up quite correctly. I don't know if you've noticed this when you've been using it.
Well, I've only used it in a very limited. I've only used it on
Yeah.
less than 5 formulas, so
Is
it
there a
kind
way?
of in a way doesn't surprise me
Yeah, go on.
that we're getting. Well, yeah, we're getting all of this new data.
Yeah. It doesn't
But
show. Maybe there's some settings that we can actually see exactly what it's doing. I don't think that's set on the pre-commit side at the moment to show us what's happening. Or maybe is that the other side? Yeah, the pre-commit
well,
side.
this might be. Yeah, I'll have to look into this.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one type that I've noticed is the answer for that could be, should we just let the pre-commit job? So what I'm proposing across all formulas for this first phase is to
Yeah.
use a separate, now in fact, I think we should always use a separate job for pre-commit. So have the linters, the main linters here in one job, and let the pre-commit linters be a separate job completely, so that we can also compare them easier. And one day, if we do finally have the confidence that we can lose this first job, it's a lot easier to make those modifications and send those through rather than mixing the two into one big job.
Mm-hmm.
I've just found it's easier when I'm
Okay.
comparing across the linters as well. It's a lot
Right.
easier to
Yeah.
set up too. Yeah. So
Fine. Okay. Yeah.
have two jobs. And the other thing that brings into play is we can also allow the failure for the
With
pre-commit
a pre-commit job. Right.
to get around this problem for now. So we can
Mm-hmm.
actually just send this out there right now to all of the formulas, and it doesn't matter if it fails, and it gives us that data coming in constantly, and we can
Yeah.
compare the two and work out what changes we need to make to pre-commit the
Okay.
configuration for each formula and make those smaller adjustments.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that will
Yeah.
probably
I
get around
agree.
two of
Yeah.
the problems. So just to mention the types of problems we've seen. So one is this allowing of failure. We'd need to be able to deal with that. Another one is, which formula is this? This is the Tomcat formula. The Tomcat formula, if I just open this up for 1 second. I need to move this out of the way. It's interfering. If I go to the build here, this one, the Rubicop actually passes, but it's failing here from the pre-commit side. So this is a slightly different issue where it's catching violations that are not caught by the Rubicop that we've got configured at the moment. So it's actually looking at, I think, let's have a look here, inspecting 5 files. Which ones are here? So forget all this. So over here, we've got 8 files over here being inspected by our main Rubicop linter. And this one's only picking up 5, and it's picking up the wrong 5. So it's actually
Okay.
looking at
Well,
an ignore. So
this is probably again similar to what is happening with YAML lint,
yep.
in that there must be in the Rubicop.yaml, there must be some kind of include and
it's an exclude. What I've done is there's an exclude on the server spec, the old files that were there that aren't being used anymore. But actually, it's only picking up those 5 files for some reason, and it's ignoring the 8 files that. So Tomcat would be a good one to look at. I'm suggesting is going back to this formula because it's actually picking up all the wrong files to scan, the opposite of what it should be finding. So that's another example of an issue with Rubicop. Yeah.
But yeah, I will say that pre-commit uses a Python library to decide which files are which.
Okay.
And in some ways, that library is more powerful than just matching on extensions because it looks at the shebang line and stuff.
Right.
So, but this is all configurable as well. So I'm just pointing out why this is the case.
Oh, no, it's not a problem. This is what we're talking about here. It's going to be something, if we look at the files changed again over here. Why is my interface messing around? I actually can't click that for some reason. Right. Where's the Rubicop bit? So it's possibly something over here where, all right, okay, so there's only 2 lines of configuration, only 1 line of configuration actually, isn't there? So is there a way to do the same thing with YAML lint where it passes through?
Yeah, well, yeah, there is, yeah.
Okay, so at least we see that. One bit of good news I can say is that salt lint, so I picked one of the formulas with a very modified salt lint file. So if we go to the actual file and you see what our salt lint's like over here for the Apache formula, where's salt lint again? It won't be here, it'll be here. You can see we've got lots of ignores and we're also ignoring a certain rule. So 2 rules are ignoring all sorts of files and the pre-commit seemed to pick that up fine and it didn't search those files. So salt lint's working well. It didn't fail on that at all.
Okay.
but what it did do is it had a problem with, no, that's actually a good thing. The RST check is working and it's picking up problems that need to be fixed, which is
Yeah.
what we want, which is a good thing. So that's the ones I sort of saw. So we've confirmed that that's the change that's going to be made to the YAML lint, and you're happy with that. So if I push that through to the template formula soon, that'll be fine, right? If we get rid of this in the template formula, that's good. And again, the idea of moving the linters out. So instead of having these two sections here, is instead have a separate job for the pre-commit. We're good with that? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. And I just want to, I did mention this in Slack. We really should be running pre-commit in Python 3.
That's fine. Let's do that. If we have to open, we're running it in that node.
Yeah, exactly. So it's language I know language Python would work.
Yeah, so let's do that. Let's do that and test that out. And I can do another run, you know, once you're ready, and any changes that you want to try, we can run another one and compare them to see what we have then afterwards.
Okay.
But everything's there in Zulip. So when we do the next one, that'll come in Zulip in its own stream, sorry, in its own thread or topic or whatever they call it, and we can have a look across there. But roughly how many failures? I mean, it looks about 60%, I think, pass. No, there's quite a lot of failures here. There's a lot of failures there in the middle for some reason. So it looks about half.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect failures, if not because of this configuration stuff, but from the RST, because previously we've had no checks.
True, absolutely, and that would be a good thing as well to catch those out. So just having a quick look at these, just to see roughly what sorts of things are happening. So that one was passing. Both are failing here. So something else altogether. Which formula is this? All right, this was a recent formula that's been adjusted, so perhaps there's something there. Right, that makes sense. So some of these are just, there are recent issues going on that need to be looked at anyway. Okay, so that's the whole pre-commit discussion. Was there any other bits that we needed to cover there? Or are we good?
Well, yeah, not from me.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for doing that, because I had looked at it briefly and I was still trying to work out which bits need to be, which templates need to be adjusted, because I thought it'd be a bit more than just simply the 3 files, and I hadn't got a chance to look. So you putting that PR really stimulated this. So, you know, thank you very much for getting involved there and doing that. It made it much easier for me to just get on with pushing those through. Right, so, and then the idea of the automatic, that's a lot later down the line. So if we just get this PR sort of in a good shape, and I think we just add the allow it to fail as a job, and we just push it out to all the formulas right now. Daniel, I don't know if you followed most of that, but would you be okay if we just push pre-commit out to all the formulas?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's enough then. Brilliant, we're good on that. Right, over to you, Daniel. We're going to move on to these changes that you're discussing in the OpenSSH formula and the targeting. Which parts would you like to start with?
Oh, excuse me, I didn't understand.
I'm saying the new changes we're proposing here for the targeting syntax.
Yeah. Actually, for me, I think it became ready to be used. And yes, can you look at this part, this one,
down
the one, yes, this one, just this one.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, I was in the middle of changing the documentation to include the new targeting like syntax, but I didn't finish, so I didn't push the documentation. But this is a resume of how to modify now the way MapJinja is working, and there is no default involved anymore. MapJinja has its own configuration files, a top level one, yes, this one, which use Jinja in the middle, as you can see, to get the current formula name. By default, we load the lookup and the formula name, you see, from the configuration. Yeah. Right. And this is what I'm using in a test environment at work. and I'm adding roles, DNS domain, etc. And for specific formula like OpenSSH, you can't use the TPL root Jinja variable because you have several sub branches to look up. Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And the sub is doing that as explained before. It's instead of merging everything in map data directly, recreate the sub branches under map data.
Just quick question: was there a lookup for these two as well? I can't
Yes.
remember. There was. Okay,
Yes,
that's fine. Yeah.
there was.
Okay.
And finally, when I finished this morning the PR, I found out in an exchange with N. Rodriguez.
Yeah, Nicholas. Yeah.
Yes, I found out that he was speaking about Stacker, and I was thinking about Pillar Stack, and I saw that we could do that like in Pillar Stack. You know, Pillar Stack,
Yes.
you have complex if, etc. You can do near what you want.
Yeah.
And actually, you can do the same with the map-jinja, with the map-jinja.yaml. But it's I found it useless, except if you want some kind of complex stuff or thing like that.
Right.
And the problem that he has, yes, I explained the solution for the roles.
Yeah, over here, down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can use slashes in roles name to get a subdirectories as you want to if you want.
Yeah.
So I think it answer correctly to the Nicholas problem.
Yep.
And I found it quite easy to use personally.
So are we at the stage where this could pretty much be used in any formula, and this can be molded to work for any formula out there? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's yes. I updated the description to include the new
It's over
breaking
here.
change. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Down
I
here.
updated because there is 3 breaking changes.
Yep.
The map-jinja sources can't be modified from pillars anymore.
Right. Yep.
Because we can't look up TPL routes.
Yep.
In pillars.
Yep. So that first place was, which file was that at the beginning? That would be placed in which location?
The
So
first place is a top level sol parameter.
Do you have an example of that, of the routes where you've set that up? Is it file routes? Okay, you haven't, but you'd basically put it under file routes, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
In the actual configuration of the minion, sorry, master or minion?
Yes, actually, in the master, you can look at the. I have some in the documentation pull request.
Here's the documentation.
Yeah. In the documentation pull request, yes, it's not the new syntax.
Right.
If you do view the file or.
I couldn't see. Yeah. Okay. View the file. Right.
Yeah. In the quick setup.
Quick start.
The quick start. Yes. You have an example because you don't have to put a root fs. You can use it with gitfs, but just put the configuration Git repository first.
Yep.
You see, the root fs is just as an example to use different file server backend.
Yep.
But personally, for example, I'm using only gitfs.
Right.
I'm just in the list of gitfs remotes. I'm just putting first my parameters gitfs Git repositories, and then the formula repositories.
Right.
The idea is to be able to override.
So the
parameters
will go before before this line here, right?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. But to make things much more easier to understand for users, I prefer to put different file server backends because you know if otherwise I will have to explain the gitfs working, which is not really.
It'll be useful to have that here as a little block then, so to show what's set up the file routes to, so they can understand how to do that. Just to make that example a bit clearer, as in with the newest stuff? I think you said you've been
Oh
working
yeah.
on it anyway. Yeah, but
Okay.
that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah. And this documentation is, you said you're going to put a bit more into that. Is that correct?
Yes. Actually, I'm not sure I will do a separate pull request for the documentation. I will add a commit on the other one in the
Yes.
targeting syntax to synchronize documentation with the targeting syntax.
Yeah, it should be in one batch anyway. It'd be nice to have it all together in one place.
Yeah.
Definitely. David, any comments about this?
Well, I mean, I haven't really had a chance to really get deep into it. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it looks fine.
Yeah. So it would just be based upon these, the types, and pulling in from wherever you want at any level. So, you might not want to use config.get, and now you have that choice to just use pillar.get instead. So it allows people to customize it to the lowest level that suits them.
Yeah. As an example, in the last rebase of that pull request,
Yeah.
the built-in values for the MapJinja sources became I loaded specifically grains and not config. You see just below.
Right here. This one over here, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I targeted YAML files with the lookup from grains directly because it's much more costly.
Yeah, of course.
To do a config get.
This is the exact idea, is to make it very, very specific. Like, why have that in the config when you can just pull it directly from the grains where it should be in the first place, and this block here as well.
Yeah.
But I like the look of it, and I think I'd like to get to a maturity where we can actually start now pushing this out to other formulas once we've got this one in place, and actually seeing how it actually modifies the structures and works along with that, obviously the map data stuff we've done as well, the verifications. So we're now giving such a platform to build from for each formula that we can really, hopefully do a lot of our configurations in YAML, and stop worrying about map.ginger and just really get on with things, development on the formulas themselves.
Yeah, I will. I'm thinking about writing some kind of blog post or something like that to explain a little bit the setup I'm using at work, and for more than just one formula documentation, you see? How formula can interact, how I can pass some kind of messages between formulas or things like that.
Yeah, please let us know if you do that.
Yeah, I have just a little concern, a question for you. In the line 24, in the plus,
this one?
I'm not sure about, yes.
Yeah.
Do you like the syntax? Or do you prefer to be on separate lines or something like that?
I think the way I've been doing things is just, just following, when we're doing anything ginger based, is to try to go as close to black as possible. And I think black would keep it like that, to be honest. It's not the end of the world. I mean, that's fine as well. Or just even, because this file is never going to be changed really very much by end users. Even if we did separate on separate lines just to make it nice and clear, that's fine as well. I mean, ultimately,
I had just one issues about closing braces because the salt lint was thinking it was a Jinja variable, but that's the reason I needed to add extra spaces.
Right. If we did it over separate lines, we wouldn't have that problem as well. So for me, it's not a problem, because ultimately, if this does work as a common map.ginger across all formulas, it'll be managed from the SSF, and whatever we choose, we can just send it across all formulas again, and it won't really make a difference. But do you have a preference, David? Any way you like this to be done instead? David, are you still there?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I don't have a particular preference there.
Okay. Yeah, let's go for it, Daniel. Let's get this out there, and start getting it tested. So are you saying this is ready now? This PR, apart from the documentation which you're going to push in, is this ready to go now?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I'll wait for the documentation to go in. I'm going to run a few tests locally for myself, just to make sure I can test it out the way, give it a spin, and then get this merged hopefully, and we can then bring the discussion forward to other formulas.
Mhm.
Excellent. That's really nice work. Really appreciate that. Fantastic. So that's the documentation discussed as well. David, the PR was this doc one over here, but like Daniel said, he's going to push it into the main one over here, 191.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you can just maybe have a look at the documentation, if not anything else, just a little review on that, that would be helpful.
I did intend to do it for today.
Yeah, I'm just saying, even if it's just the documentation part, just reviewing that.
Yeah, no, I want to understand it anyway.
Yeah, because myself and Daniel have been going deeper and deeper into it, and I can sort of almost feel like it's going so far away from where we currently are. It can, I mean, even every new change that Daniel puts in, it takes me a bit of time just to catch up. And I'm thinking for people who haven't even played with it at all, it must be such a long distance away from where we currently are. It must be quite confusing. So if someone else reads that documentation, hopefully they can bring something to the conversation which I might miss even myself as another reviewer, because I'm used to what Daniel's been saying for a while now. I'd like someone who's starting from fresh, and it'll be under 191, not 194 once that's merged. Fantastic. Okay, the another issue that has something I've been working on in the last sprint was getting these Tiamat images out there to if I just go to the pipelines for a minute, let's see what I've got.
What is that you've got there on in your browser, Imran? I've been meaning to ask you for.
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah.
It's Tridactyl. It was
Is that in Firefox? Yeah.
Yeah. It was based upon Vimperator. I used to use Vimperator before this, but that got discontinued when Firefox had that big change around, I think version 56 or something, with the new, so Tridactyl took over. And it's Vim-like, isn't it? So it's really, really powerful. I mean, there's lots of features I don't ever use, like, all keyboard, mouseless operation and stuff. I don't always use all of it, but moving around between things is very, very fast. So yeah, Tridactyl is a normal plugin, Firefox plugin. Right, so over here, I wanted to quickly we don't have to go into any detail here, particularly in this aspect, but what's happened is I've adjusted the matrix. If I can compare to here, this is what I showed last time. This will be updated soon for 3002 when it comes out. But when I was looking at this, I realized that we've only got a few days left of support for 2019.2. So I've removed the builds for those. They're still there. They're still available. The images will remain in Docker Hub, but I'm not updating them anymore because there's no use for them after this. Yeah.
Right.
But what happens as a consequence of that, we lose these three platforms. Again, we can still use them, and the PR in template formula is still using these, but these three platforms, no, sorry, this third one is fine because that's still available in 3000, but CentOS 6 and Amazon Linux 1, they're both actually also coming to end of life fairly soon, by the end of November. So I don't think, again, it's the end of the world. We still have them. They're in Docker Hub, but as we start phasing out the old Travis matrices and use new ones, these won't appear anymore in most formulas, if any. Yeah, is there a problem? That the Vault formula still has Amazon Linux 1. Would you still want to keep that, for example?
Well, I would only keep it until at the end of life.
Right. And when I'm, yeah.
Why is that what you're talking about, or is it?
Yeah, what I'm talking about is because I'm so, we discussed about updating all the Travises everywhere across all of our formulas. Yeah. I want to try and standardize the actual matrix as much as possible. So if I show you what I've done here, for example, this one's actually more than what I'm suggesting. What's the easiest way to see this? It'd be the actual Travis run itself. Let's get to that. Right, so if you imagine, let's go to Travis. Because we spoke about this before, and the idea was to use all of the Tiamat images that are available. So that actually covers some of the older platforms as well. Actually, this doesn't show the best. It's better if we see the travis.yaml. That will give a much better idea of what I'm talking about. Right, so over here. So Tiamat provides builds for quite a few of the platforms. So you can see the batch over here. So you've got the 2 Debians, the 3 Ubuntus, 2 CentOS, the Amazon Linux 2, and the 2 Oracle Linux, which we probably won't use anywhere, except for the template formula, just as an example that it can be done. But those builds will be the sort of primary builds across all the formulas, the primary jobs, in order to make this as simple as possible across all our formulas. And a few of the master ones which aren't available for Tiamat. So that would be the Fedora and the OpenSUSE Leap, which aren't available or won't be built for a while by SaltStack. I think that will be done by Fedora and OpenSUSE themselves. So I'm roughly suggesting using this matrix over here as much as possible across formulas wherever those work, and an arch as well at the bottom here. Any comments on that so far?
So that is, will this be removing it from kitchen.yaml as well?
Yes, it does that. The SSF does that as well.
So, okay. So what you're saying is in this process of standardization, in the Vault formula, Amazon Linux 1 will be taken off, right? Is that what am I understanding that?
It doesn't have to go off. It doesn't have to be taken out, just like I've done in the template formula. So if I just quickly pop over here, so what I've done in the template formula, for example, is I can still add exceptions to it. So that's not a problem in doing that. So you see, I've got the two upstart platforms there at the bottom that are still included. That could be done on a case-by-case basis. I think the only formula I've seen using Amazon Linux 1 is the Vault formula. So we can keep it in there, and that's not a problem. But generally, I'm saying taking out CentOS 6 and Amazon Linux 1 across,
in the general sense, that's fine.
Across all formulas, just to get to that sort of standard structure as close as possible, that standard structure across all formulas. Fine. Is there any issues with losing these platforms that others can see that I might be missing? Daniel, any problems with losing CentOS 6 or Amazon Linux 1?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I'm just sorry, but there is something I may not have understand correctly.
Yeah, go on.
The Tiamat, which Salt version is the Tiamat images testing?
Right. What it is, there's a whole discussion about this. In fact, it's better I link you to the SEP, I think. What it is Salt is moving away from packaging. How's the simplest way to explain this? Packaging as it currently is, and what it's going to do is package it with a Python, like in its own Python kind of environment by itself. So it doesn't matter if you don't have the Python version available on your actual system, it will package everything for you into one, almost like just one package for the whole of SaltStack.
Okay.
So when you want to install Salt in the future, it'll be via what's called Tiamat, this new packaging method that's out there. Can you explain a bit better, David? I've maybe not really covered that very well. Let me try and pull it up in the meantime.
I think the question Daniel was asking was which version was it going to be, and
all right, okay,
that we are going to use. I think that's the question. And if I understand correctly,
yes,
they're doing like a daily build off the master, aren't they?
Yes. I didn't explain that very well. So what it is it's at the moment it'll be off the master or the current version that's released. So 3002, say for example. In the future, the way I understand it, there will be versions available for each version that's built with Tiamat. So let's say 3002 Magnesium it's Magnesium, isn't it? Is going to be the first version built with Tiamat. What I understand, I might be wrong about this, is that there will be a 3002 available, and you can install that anywhere as 3002, and then later on all the other versions that come after it. But at the moment, it's only being built off the master branch of Salt, and it's being uploaded. When it's being packaged, it's being uploaded to this Artifactory over here that they've got, and then we're building.
And you're
Yeah.
proposing using that, whatever the latest build that they've done from the master, you'll be using that, yes?
So instead of using the master images, we are the bootstrap will be the bootstrap's going to be removed soon. Salt bootstrap is going to be replaced by Tiamat. So those builds are only going to last for a certain period of time, and they won't be updated anymore. So the sooner we move to Tiamat and we're ready for this future of the way Salt is going to be packaged, the better. Because we've already caught now, I was going to show you guys, we're already catching problems now that are, these Tiamat builds still are lacking in certain areas. For example, I'll show you one in a minute. Because I started some runs on it and there's some problems appearing, and we report those back to Salt so that those things are fixed in time. So when the Tiamat builds actually become the official releases, that they don't have those inherent problems, for all of us. So one was with package repo.managed. I'll show you the bug in a minute that I came across. But going back to this,
you're still building the pre-salted images, yeah?
I'm building. So going back over where I've lost from pipelines. So we're still building the pre-salted images for everything at the moment, apart from 2019. I'm not building new ones for those. So those will.
But the newer ones, you're still building them using the Tiamat package, and that Tiamat package is at whatever version of master they most recently built. And then, but you're building an image, if I understand correctly, every week, yeah?
Yeah, this is running once a week.
Once a week, right. So we should never be more than a week.
That's right. Even
on master, yeah.
So we have a master being built from the bootstrap, and we have Tiamat being built from your Artifactory packages. So these should be, what's the word I'm looking for? Theoretically, these should be the same. But the fact is, when you actually use them, they're not. And it's helping to pick out those bugs early to find what needs to be done to these Tiamat builds to make sure that they are, identical effectively to the master images that are currently being built by the bootstrap.
Okay, so as a resume, to see if I understood correctly, you are removing or not testing automatically for older version, okay, 2009 and 90, yes, and you are replacing master with Tiamat.
Okay, that was the plan that we spoke about in one of the last working group meetings. But what I'm about to just explain is, in this last week, when I've been testing some of the formulas, there are quite serious problems with Tiamat at the moment. So I don't think we'll be able to do this for any more formulas at the moment, but we are building the images. So yeah, it's quite confusing because there's layers of what we've said. We were saying, let's use Tiamat and let's leave master, but we can't do that now.
That's the plan, but we are doing that gradually, step by step, to solve problems with the Tiamat images.
Not just that, to solve problems with our formulas as well, if there are any, catching issues that need to be resolved because of the newer versions of Salt. But same thing we do with the master image as well.
Yeah, and in the future, we will have Tiamat packages version with 3004, 5, etc.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, all of the current way we've been building Salt using the bootstrap, all of this will disappear, and meaning that method will no longer be used. All of it will be built with Tiamat in the future, and the sooner we are ready for that, as a whole, not just as the formulas organization, but as SaltStack as a whole, the better for everybody. So it's mutually beneficial if we start using these as soon as possible. But what I was about to report now is, in the last week, I found that there are still quite serious issues with Tiamat that we might not be able to use through a lot of our formulas right now. But what we will do is use maybe the master instead for the time being. And when the time is right, we'll switch over to the relevant Tiamat package builds instead.
I finally understood. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. It's a lot's been going on. There's been a lot of discussions about it. And I was going to point to the SEP as well that's in discussion. If I can find it. Where do I have it? Okay, over here. Where's the SEPs again? I don't normally go from here to get to it. Oh no, it's over here. Where's the SEP? Sep. Where's do you remember where the seps are, David? I don't normally come from this direction here, and I haven't got my main.
Salt stack. Well, it's just under sep, I think.
Yeah, it was sep though, but it's not there. I always come from a different direction. It's are you in Slack on your side? And are you in the sep channel? Because you'll have the link there.
Give me a second, yeah.
Actually, I can just search a sep.
Salt enhancement proposals. So it's the full title.
Okay, right, got you. Go back.
Salt dash.
Yeah. So even if I just type enhancement, here it is. Yes. So this section over here, there's a current PR, which is one of the proposals which discuss Tiamat over here. So Daniel, you might want to have a look at that just to get a rough idea. It's not very long.
Yeah, okay.
There's actually another one that was before this, which was the initial idea of it, but this one's actually explaining it at the almost like a final decision, if you like, how they're going to go about it, and all the details are there. It's not very long, like I said, and there is another SEP that's in there that talks about SEP in much more detail. That was Tiamat. I think the original discussion about Tiamat in the first place. But yeah, so trying to wrap all this up, what I'm saying is the first issue is trying to get onto Tiamat as soon as possible, but we can't do that right now. As for having it in the template formula, I think that's the right thing to do, because any new formulas that are made, I think it's still fine. So this PR, I think, is still valid, but I don't want to roll these out to other formulas just yet because there are issues. So for example, if I go to the apt formula, because I'm not in my normal account, it's not finding those things. So did I have that Zulip still open? No. Okay, let's go from there. Where's the one I did with Tiamat? Wasn't very long ago. Right, so for example, these are using the 3 Debian-based Tiamat images that we have, and it was failing on the repositories suite. So when I looked into it a bit further, we saw that it's struggling with the package repo.manage state. This state over here is failing. So if we go down here somewhere, we're finding that it's actually having a problem in examining the repo because a certain package isn't installed. Now, that's not quite correct, because those packages may be installed on the system, but because this is a self-enclosed Python build, a pop build, what's happening is it's not always been able to work with other Python packages on the system. So we tried installing Python 3 apt and all the other bits, even Python apt, and it still won't work with this package repo.manage state. So until these sort of major sort of bugs are resolved, it's going to be quite a risky proposal to actually push these through to all of our formulas. And there was another one with which formula was it? Not Tomcat, the libvirt. Actually, it was the libvirt formula.
Yeah,
which
because we are installing a package for Salt.
Oh, is it? Which package is that?
The Python libvirt.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. We are installing that package for the Salt formula to work, generating the certificate, the SSL cert NK.
That's right. So, and what's happened? Yeah. So what's happening is when it installs the package fine, and this one we've had trouble with, but
it can't be found.
It can't be found. And this one's actually a bit more of a tricky problem, because when we were discussing this, there's actually a new Tiamat channel in Slack as well. We was discussing this. Someone explained that at the moment they can only work with wheels from PyPy. They can't work with the tars and stuff at the moment. So this package, the Python libvirt package, is not available as a wheel. Okay. So there's going to have to be some workarounds to figure out how to make this work with Tiamat. And so there's still quite a few stages to go, but these are being found by doing these tests early, and it helps with the overall process for both sides. Like I said, it's beneficial for us as well to be on the cutting edge to make sure our formulas are going to work in the future, and not just with the old versions of Salt.
And as an just a comment for this formula specifically, we are using the package installed just above. We are using the package installed to install the package.
Yes.
But to install a package for salt, I think we should have some kind of specific state to say that I want something for salt, not for the system.
Yeah.
To work with TMAP.
Okay, so what we did in the TOML, there was another bug in the TOML formula. Oh, I'm not in my account, and I keep forgetting that. We had a problem like that for the TOML formula. Not TOML, it was the TOML library. Which formula was it?
Oh, a telegraph.
Telegraph, that's the one. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So the telegraph formula had the same problem, but we was able to skip around it using the pip installed state. Because that the TOML package was available as a wheel, we were able to use the, if I go to the build history, it wasn't like, again, we was using a package installed and that wasn't working because it couldn't see it. It couldn't see it. And someone told me to try the pip installed at the time. I can't remember who it was. I think someone in Salt. So yeah, we were struggling with it not finding the module. So Python modules which aren't available from the Salt pop build, the TMAP build, won't be able to be accessed. So the solution here was to do a pip installed instead, and that actually, like I said, because it's a wheel, it worked. It's quite, but this can't be done for the libvirt formula at the moment. It won't work.
Yeah.
Just having a quick look here. I think it was this one over here. Yeah, over here. Just a little. Still keeping the package installed for the rest of it, but the versions which are actually, after that version of Salt, use the TOML package. So use the pip installed state instead. Yeah. So yeah, there's a number of issues upcoming, but with this whole new building method of Salt and only using a single branch now, not maintaining the older versions of Salt, we need to be ready for that. Actually, there was one more side issue if I've got a couple of minutes. Something I noticed that started happening since the change in numbering for the Salt versions. Just wanted to pick your brains, if you didn't mind, for a minute, to give me a bit of a hand here. We still okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Excellent. What we had is, from the SSF formula perspective, because we used to have the 2-digit numbers from the beginning, that worked fine, and it would pull the latest version of 2019.2, whether it was 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, it was pulling that in fine. And same with the 3000 series is where the problem started, is where when you were pulling, if you were building Salt using only 3000 without the dot number, it was pulling the latest version in the 3000 series. So this is going to be a bit tricky to explain. Let me try, actually, it'd probably be easier in a spreadsheet if I can explain it here. Let's just add another tab. So what I'm saying is if I had 2019.2, that would get, 2019.2.1. Oh no, the very first one was 0, and then whatever else came after it, all of that got pulled fine. If I had 3000, that would pull 3000 and then 3000.1. The numbering basically has messed me up a bit here. And I need to resolve this before the next version comes out. So let me see if I can explain it well. But now, the problem here, it's hard to explain, but we used to have builds for, let me get the net managers up for 1 second. How can I define this for it? It's hard to explain it very well. Okay, the question is this. Do we care about these releases in between? Do we need to have pre-salted images for each one of these in between, or do we only need the latest one in each series?
Are you saying then that the image will just be called 3001, but it will contain the latest patch?
Yeah, and that's the problem. Yeah, and it's So what I'm finding is I've used 3001 and now I'm getting 3001.1 instead of 3001, which is this version over here. I don't think that matters. I don't think we need to have separate pre-salted images for each one. I think the last one in each series is the right one, and that's enough. If you get my point, we only need the last one of each series. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
We don't need these ones in between for any reason whatsoever, do we?
Well,
Yes.
only for regressions or something. You could check a regression, but then won't they still be there in the
No, because
the Docker
the Docker Hub overwrites the one that was already there.
overrides? Okay, right.
Okay. And what's the politics about support for the middle? Does Salt support only the latest, or those in between?
Okay, so support. Oh, because I'm not in my account, I keep messing this up. Salt stack end of life. I think I'll find it like that. So what we have to do, here we go, perfect, found it straight away. This is what we work by, and we care about phase 3 support ends. So like I said, is the phase 3 support end is coming up for the 2019.2 by the end of the month. So we don't worry about 2019.2 after this.
Okay, but if I understand correctly, the point 1 ended when the point 2 arrived?
As far as that's a good question. Wait, what is the answer to that question? I know I've seen it, and I'm trying to think of it. The point. Okay, let's have a look at.
Well, I mean,
we'll find this. We'll find this. Right, release notes. No, there's still no. Of course, there's still. You can still use those versions. That's for sure. You can use anything from that series. So 3000 to from today, all of these are still supported versions of Salt at the moment. By the end of the month, it'll only be these ones and the new 3002 that's coming up. But yeah, of course, we can still use 3000.1, 3000.2. That's fine.
Okay, so if people use the .2,
say they're using that one there,
yeah, for example,
yeah.
we will not test anymore when there is a .2 or .3.
Well, what I'm saying is what caught me out this time is in this change to 3000, it actually caught the bootstrap and all sorts, because when we were first building, because we was always using at least 2 digits in the command to the bootstrap, so we was always at least using always two digits, major and minor. And what happened is that always got the version you was after. But what's happened is they had this. I mean, personally, I think it would have been so much better to have that as .0, and then you could actually pick a specific version of Salt. But when I know you still can do it. There is a way of picking the URL that you pull from it. It'll pull 3000 itself, but the bootstrap is a bit more tricky to do. We can still do it, but I just don't think it's worth it. I'm just saying do we really ever need 3000? Is it not okay just to keep the end of series each time?
As soon as it's clear for the user that the version supported or tested actually by our formula pipelines is the .3, it's fine.
Yeah. So then there's a naming issue. This is the last question I had, and this is what I was trying to get towards, is the naming issue at the moment is a little bit, so go back to these. So this was the original Docker Hub we had for net managers. And you can see straight away, when you have the older version, it's clear what it is. It's 2017.7, 3000. We did do 3000, 3000.1, 3000.2. You see, we did do it for 3000. But 3000.3. We did it for that series, but we didn't do it for 3001. So this isn't actually 3001 anymore. This is 3001.1. And I'm asking, going forward, because there's now an inconsistency, I want to clear this inconsistency up and make it one thing. And at the moment, I only have the last 3000.3, and I have the 3001, which is really supposed to be 3001.1. That's
Yeah.
the problem. I'm just got into this inconsistency and I want to solve it going forward. So going back to this spreadsheet, what should we be naming it as? 3001.x? I don't.
I
What do you
agree for the yes for the pointy version like this one, because it's harder for user to understand what's going on. If the user have an issue with 3001 and or with 3000 dot zero, for example, and if we go to the formula pipelines and see that everything is fine for the 3000 lines, it's not obvious that it may be because there is difference between the 3000.0 and the 3000.3.
Yeah,
So
there's some
I think we should have the pointy sub-release in the name.
In the name. Point X, is that okay?
Point X with the X incrementing, right?
X incrementing?
Like .1, .2, .3.
Oh, right. So you mean even like have a .0 as well, which I
Yeah.
can't show. Yeah. So have a .0 as well, yeah, even though it's not technically .0, because technically the new version is just 3001. The new version here will be 3002. It won't be .0.
If it.
You see, that's the problem. Is it's all a bit inconsistent now, and I need to figure out the right consistency for this going forward. I don't mind if we even just stick to just say 3001, and you're getting the latest version in there. We just mean the 3001 series. So at the moment in the pre-salted here now, we have a 3001, and that image there means latest 3001, and it's just that series, and that's it.
Yeah. The only problem I see is when you are doing some kind of text processing in outputs. That's something I'm doing when looking at logs, and when I need to sort the version, comparing 3000.1 and 2000 alone, I may have some issues depending on if you are in text base or not in text base, etc. So
I think all of us got caught out by this. Like I said, even Start Bootstrap had issues at the beginning trying to catch up, but I just can't figure out what the right thing to do here is going forward. How do we do it for ourselves?
I think I've seen somewhere that somebody else is using 3000.0 as an example.
Okay.
You know Maxim? I think that. I'm sure he has brought this up somewhere, and I can't remember where.
So what I could do is I'll talk to Javier about it definitely as well, because he's been fundamentally important for all this pre-salted stuff. I was thinking then, if we have here, across all of these here, I did that wrong. But if I have here, even if we are still, the formula itself will modify that and only pull 3001 when 3001 is only available, not 3001.0, it'll still only pull 3001. If you know what I mean, it'll do the right thing, but we actually label everything with a .0 for the first iteration and then 0.1, 0.2. Is that the right sort of idea?
I think so.
Yeah,
so
it's clear.
Yeah, unambiguous.
Unambiguous, yes.
But then the question goes back to one more. Do we build one for every single release? So like we did in Net Managers here, we had one for every single release. So we had 3000.1, 3000.2, 3000.3. Is that what we want?
I think, well, yeah. I mean, we're not going to have more than, let's say, 3 point releases. Is it that much of a...
Yeah, it's not that much, is it, really?
Yeah.
I mean, this one only had 1 point release.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're already on 3002, so...
I think it's probably, for everyone involved, better to build them all,
Okay, and what should I do with the existing 3001? Just leave it as it is and just start doing the right thing from 3002?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Because going back now and changing it is going to be a nightmare. I think just keep... At least we fix it for 3002. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. run out of time. There was just very, very briefly, it was the GitLab for open source program, you know, in terms of getting our syncing going both ways. I found it, and David mentioned it first, and I did speak to them upstream, and they told me to send an email for this as well, and they'll do the application for us, hopefully, to give us that, so we can then have our formulas on both sides in GitLab and GitHub, and they're synchronized. So that's a quick point about that. And there was this issue here. I will have to discuss this next time. Oh, we've got a 3 weeks until the next meeting, by the way. This is a 3-week sprint. But if anyone has any suggestions here for this, do we have to have separate? Yeah.
Well, this is a bit of a maybe from a wider perspective. In that, I have a feeling that we might need to decentralize the formulas.
Yeah.
And what I mean, I think maybe we should have an agenda item, maybe next meeting, if there's a 3-week gap, and we can agenda item about where we're going with the project.
Okay. So what's the sort of not issue?
Well, what's the vision for salt stack formulas?
Yeah. And what are you sort of suggesting is like
one possibility is that I've been, rather than all of these formulas being in our organization, which from that issue doesn't really make sense for many reasons, we can somehow decentralize it and run, for example, one idea would be to run SSF like as a GitHub action to make the changes, rather than you being the master.
No, that was the idea. The idea was I was hoping to be able to get it into a shape, which was, because right now it still isn't in that shape, which is easy enough for anyone to do.
I think, but it may not even need anyone to do it. We may be able to do it because there's, different levels of expertise and things. And I realize SSF is really quite complicated from my own experience.
Yeah.
We can either a GitHub action, which you can write, or like a bot or something. So as long as somebody uses a template of template formula into their own repo, into their own organization, there'd be some kind of bot that writes the changes, all of these changes that we make around testing and whatnot. So that you personally don't need write access to people's formulas or the organization formulas, and then that issue would go away. What that person was.
Well, the issue itself was slightly different in the sense of us pinging by that group. So
but they're basically saying they don't necessarily want to be as a part of like this kind of contributors organization if it means getting pinged for 300 formulas.
No, I think what I'm seeing here is the main issue is actually using this handle has been the problem. I don't think they're saying about, well, I've not got that. They're saying we don't want to see the notification.
Sorry, he's saying if I can leave the
last one,
team and keep commit rights, well, then it's okay for me. But I mean, I don't believe that's possible.
No. Well, there is a way.
However, there are different ways of doing things.
To me, the problem, to me, the problem that was I was trying to poke the work group SolarStack formula for a review, but I can't select the work group for a review, and I just let autocomplete do the work.
Yeah.
Yes, you can have you can have it in comments, but not in review. I don't have it in review. Yeah.
I've seen it not pop up sometimes. Myself as well. When I've tried to ping the work group, it doesn't come up, so I have to manually edit the thing. I know what you're talking about, basically.
Yeah, and what Raphael Herzog was asking was either we don't poke contributors, which is a group for people for their own maintaining their own formula, and letting only people doing formula organization-wide stuff in a dedicated work group.
Yep.
And it was just, I think, not being bothered for formula-wide stuffs.
Yeah, there's two quick points I could, or two suggestions I could do. Both of them are not very nice to do, but they're suggestions. One is that what I've done with one of the repos already is that you just actually have the person active on the repo using their own username. So they're not in any group, but they're just on their own username for the repos they want to be part of. Yeah, and that could be done even at a level of using the API where you could do that. So someone could come out of the contributors group and just be added to the repos they want to be part of. And then they'll only see those, they'll only see those notifications, and they're no longer part of the contributors team. So that's one suggestion. And another one that's a bit more radical than that, which it saves things in one way, but it's more difficult, is actually having a group per repo, but only the ones where it's important, where people want to move to. So you have a group for that repo, and they move into that group instead. And that means I don't have to sit there selecting particular users for every single formula, but you just put anyone who shows an interest in that formula, you put them into the group for that particular formula.
I think it's complicated and overrated. Yeah. Personally, I see the contributors work group as something when we need the whole formula community to discuss about.
Yeah.
Okay, and the work group, the WG work group, is for us, actually, people doing some organization stuffs, modifying formula standards or something like that.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to have some notification on a specific formula, they can just subscribe to it without
without being part of the group.
I think discussing formula specific stuff should be done in formula issues.
Yeah.
There is no need to create a work group for that. They have issue, and they raise issue for that formula. They discuss the issue in the formula issue system, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's just that in truth, looking at the notifications over the last couple of years now, I don't see many people get involved with any discussions at all. As in, there are very few people showing an interest in any formulas. And I was thinking, if you can give people much more control over the formula, certain formulas at least, and you let them get on with it, where they have the power to just, I think once you don't feel that anyone's listening to what you're saying, or they're going to respond to you, you lose interest. If we can empower people to take over certain formulas and just actually get on with developing them and responding to issues and stuff, maybe that'll take away some of the burden. I don't know if I'm not thinking correctly about it, but it feels like to me that would be the best way to sort of decentralize at the initial stage of it, is decentralize the power, if you like, get people taking control of certain formulas and removing that from the work group only, if you like.
Yeah, I understand.
Anyway, we can discuss this for next time. I think we'll leave that on the agenda for next time. It's a bigger discussion, but something to think about anyway, about how to do it, if there is a way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, that was good. Thank you very much for coming, and we can catch up on GitHub with these various things we've spoken about.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant. All right, and take care.
Okay, cheers then.
All right, bye.
See you.